The rise and fall of Constantinople. Long before it became one of the world's most iconic cities, Constantinople was known as Byzantium, a modest Greek colony. Founded around 657 BCE by settlers from Megara, this small outpost sat at a crucial geographic junction, the Bosporus Strait. Nestled between the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea, Byzantium's location would define its fate, as it commanded one of the ancient world's most vital trade routes. Despite its strategic position, Byzantium remained relatively obscure in its early centuries, overshadowed by the powerful city-states of Athens and Sparta. It changed hands several times during the Persian Wars, and later during conflicts between the Macedonians and the Romans, each empire recognizing its potential but failing to fully exploit it. The city's fortunes began to change after the Roman conquest in the 2nd century BCE, when it became part of the growing Roman Empire. However, the true importance of Byzantium would only be realized centuries later, when the city was chosen to play a central role in reshaping the empire and the world. The year 330 AD marked a turning point not only for Byzantium, but for the entire Roman Empire. At the time, the empire was vast but struggling, and Emperor Constantine I saw an urgent need for renewal. He envisioned a new capital, one that would symbolize the strength and unity of a now Christian empire. Byzantium, with its unparalleled strategic location, was his chosen location. Constantine began an ambitious transformation, reinventing the city as New Rome. He renamed it Constantinople in honor of himself and embarked on extensive building projects. The city expanded dramatically, with new walls, palaces, and infrastructure designed to support a thriving urban center. He built the Great Hippodrome, where chariot races entertained the citizens, and began the first version of the Hagia Sophia, which would become a symbol of Christian rule in the East. Unlike ancient Rome, Constantinople was founded as a Christian city, a reflection of Constantine's own conversion to Christianity. This religious focus gave the city a unique character from the beginning, as Christian churches and monuments were integrated into its design. Constantinople quickly became the political and cultural heart of the Eastern Roman Empire. It was a beacon of power, wealth, and faith, perfectly situated between Europe and Asia, providing a gateway for trade and military strategy. Constantine's vision was realized, and the transformation of the city laid the foundation for the Byzantine Empire. Under the reign of Justinian I, 527 to 565 CE, Constantinople entered what would later be known as its Golden Age. Justinian was a visionary emperor, determined to restore the greatness of the Roman Empire and expand its territories. His reign saw extensive military campaigns, legal reforms, and cultural flourishing, transforming Constantinople into the heart of the Byzantine Empire. One of Justinian's works was the construction of the Hagia Sophia. After a devastating fire destroyed his predecessor, Justinian recommended the survival of the massive church, which stood as the largest cathedral in the world for nearly 1,000 years. Its iconic dome, seemingly suspended in the heavens, symbolized the divine authority of the emperor and the Christian foundation of the empire. Beyond architecture, Justinian's impact on law was profound. He modified the Corpus Juris Civilis, a modification of Roman law that would influence legal systems in Europe for centuries to come. His reforms ensured that the empire's complex laws were unified and accessible, reinforcing the strength of Byzantine governance. Culturally, Constantinople was a melting pot. Merchants, scholars, and artisans from across the empire and beyond converged on the city, contributing to a rich mix of art, literature, and religious thought. The city became a center for Orthodox Christianity, its theological debates cementing Christian doctrine for generations. However, Justinian's ambitions also came at a cost. His wars of conquest strained the empire's resources, and outbreaks of plague further tested its resilience. Despite these challenges, Constantinople emerged stronger, setting the stage for centuries of Byzantine dominance in the Eastern Mediterranean. Constantinople's strategic location, which had long been its greatest strength, also made it a target for ambitious empires. From the 7th to the 10th centuries, the city suffered numerous sieges, mainly by the Persians, Arabs, and Slavs. These attacks tested Constantinople's legendary defenses, particularly its monumental Theodosian walls, which were built in the 5th century. The first major threat came in the form of the Persian and Avar siege of 626 AD, but it was the Arab sieges in the 7th and 8th centuries that truly tested the city's resilience. For the first time, the forces of Islam, which had spread rapidly after the religion's birth, sought to conquer the Byzantine capital. The Arabs launched several attacks, including a significant one between 674 and 678 AD, and another in 717 AD, both of which were repulsed. One of Constantinople's major defensive innovations was the mysterious and deadly weapon known as Greek fire. This incendiary weapon, believed to be a form of early napalm, could burn even on water, devastating enemy fleets. It became a critical tool in protecting the city during naval attacks. Although Constantinople survived these sieges, the constant pressure weakened the empire, particularly its economy and military strength. Still, the city remained a powerful symbol of Christian resistance to Islamic expansion, holding firm against waves of invaders for centuries. In 1204, one of the most shocking and devastating events in Constantinople's long history occurred during the Fourth Crusade. Originally launched to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control, the crusade was redirected by political intrigue and financial motivations to Constantinople, a Christian city. This tragic betrayal would cripple the Byzantine Empire and mark a turning point in its decline. Tensions between the Byzantine Empire and the Western European powers had been simmering for years. The Byzantines were wary of the Crusaders, while the Latin West saw the wealth of Constantinople as an irresistible prize. After a series of political blunders and broken promises, the Crusaders found themselves outside the gates of Constantinople, lured by the promise of gold and riches rather than religious devotion. The siege of Constantinople began in April 1204, and after a brief but fierce assault, the city fell. What followed was one of the most infamous sacks in history. The Crusaders looted and destroyed vast amounts of wealth, cultural treasures, and religious artifacts. Churches, including the Hagia Sophia, were desecrated, while priceless works of art and manuscripts were stolen or lost forever. The people of Constantinople endured horrific violence and enslavement as their once mighty capital was reduced to a shadow of its former glory. Following the sack, the Latin Empire was established, ruling Constantinople for nearly 6 decades, 1204 to 1261. But it was a poor imitation of Byzantine power. The city's infrastructure was devastated, and its status as a dominant political and cultural center was irrevocably damaged. Although the Byzantines eventually reclaimed their city, the sack of Constantinople left deep scars that contributed to the empire's eventual downfall. Following the disastrous Fourth Crusade and the Latin occupation of Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire was a fractured and weakened state. In 1261, Emperor Michael VIII Palaiologos won a critical victory by recapturing Constantinople from the Latin Empire. This moment brought a renewed sense of hope and pride to the Byzantines, but it also marked the beginning of a slow and painful decline. Michael VIII worked to restore the city, rebuilding its defenses, churches, and monuments, particularly the Hagia Sophia, which had suffered under Latin rule. However, the empire's resources were severely depleted, and Constantinople, once the heart of a vast and powerful empire, was now surrounded by hostile forces. The Byzantine Empire had lost most of its territory in Asia Minor to the Seljuk Turks, and the Ottoman Turks were beginning to emerge as a formidable force in the region. Internally, the empire was plagued by political instability. Michael's successors, including Andronikos II and Andronikos III, faced constant civil wars, noble feuds, and economic hardships that further weakened the state. Attempts to restore Byzantine power through alliances with Western European states were often unsuccessful. Efforts to heal the religious schism between the Eastern Orthodox Church and Roman Catholicism met with fierce opposition from within Byzantium itself, causing deep divisions among the people. By the end of the 14th century, the empire had largely been reduced to Constantinople and a few outlying territories. The city, once a thriving metropolis and center of trade, had become economically dependent on the Venetian and Genoese merchants who dominated its ports. Despite the valiant efforts of emperors such as John V and Manuel II Palaiologos to seek aid from the West, Constantinople's fate seemed increasingly sealed. The growing power of the Ottoman Turks loomed large, and by the early 15th century, the empire was a fragile shell of its former self, on the verge of collapse. The fall of Constantinople on 29th of May 1453 marked one of the most dramatic and significant moments in world history. It brought an end to the Byzantine Empire, which had lasted more than 1,000 years, and heralded the rise of the Ottoman Empire as a dominant power in the Mediterranean and beyond. The final siege of the city was a testament both to the strategic genius of Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror, and to the indomitable spirit of Constantine XI Palaiologos, the last Byzantine emperor. By the time the Ottomans laid siege to Constantinople in early 1453, the city had become an isolated outpost, surrounded by Ottoman-controlled territory. Sultan Mehmed II, determined to capture the Byzantine capital, assembled a massive force, estimated at over 80,000 soldiers, including elite janissaries. In contrast, Emperor Constantine XI could muster only about 7,000 defenders, a mix of Byzantine soldiers and a small number of foreign allies, including Venetians and Genoese. The key to the city's defense was its legendary Theodosian walls, which had withstood countless sieges over the centuries. However, Mehmed's army brought with it a new technological weapon that would change the course of history: large cannons capable of breaching the mighty walls. The most famous of these was the Basilica, a massive cannon designed by a Hungarian engineer named Urban that could hurl giant stone balls over a mile. For nearly 2 months, the city endured relentless bombardment. Mehmed II also employed a number of innovative tactics, including building a wooden ramp to transport his fleet overland to the Golden Horn, bypassing the city's formidable sea defenses. Despite the city's desperate resistance, including raids and attempts to repair breaches in the walls, Constantinople's fate was sealed. On May 29, 1453, after a night of intense fighting, Ottoman forces finally breached the walls. Constantine XI, refusing to surrender, reportedly went into battle, meeting his end when the city fell. The once great capital of the Byzantine Empire was now in Ottoman hands, marking the end of the medieval Christian Empire and the beginning of Ottoman rule. Following its capture in 1453, Constantinople underwent a profound transformation under Sultan Mehmed II in the Ottoman Empire. Renamed Istanbul, the city became the beating heart of a new Islamic empire that would dominate large parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa for centuries. One of Mehmed's first actions was to repopulate and rebuild the city, which had been left in ruins after the siege. He encouraged settlers of various ethnic and religious backgrounds, including Turks, Greeks, Armenians, and Jews, to ensure Istanbul's rebirth as a bustling center of commerce and culture. Under the Ottomans, the city's strategic position at the crossroads of Europe and Asia was fully exploited, making it one of the world's most important trading centers. The most symbolic transformation was the conversion of the Hagia Sophia from a Christian cathedral to a mosque, reflecting the shift in religious power. New architectural masterpieces such as Topkapi Palace and the Süleymaniye Mosque were built, transforming Istanbul into a showcase of Ottoman grandeur. Istanbul flourished as a center of Islamic culture and administration, with the sultans expanding their empire from this newly revived capital. For nearly 500 years, the city was the pinnacle of the Ottoman world. In 1923, following the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, the newly established Republic of Turkey, led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, sought to modernize and secularize the nation. One of the most significant changes was the relocation of the capital from Istanbul to Ankara, a symbolic move designed to represent a break with the imperial past. Despite losing its capital status, Istanbul remained the cultural and economic center of Turkey. Throughout the 20th century, the city grew rapidly, with a growing population and extensive modernization. Its rich history, layered with Byzantine, Ottoman, and modern Turkish influences, makes it one of the most culturally diverse cities in the world. Today, Istanbul stands as a global metropolis, renowned for its unique position between Europe and Asia, blending ancient heritage with modern innovation. It is a thriving center of commerce, tourism, and culture, representing Turkey's dynamic role in both the East and the West.